Geordi La Forge, LeVar Burton, stayed busy as the chief engineer of the US Enterprise D on Star Trek The Next Generation, but he still found time to start a family before Star Trek Picard. Throughout his time on the Enterprise D, Geordi proved to be an incredibly skilled engineer, often going above and beyond to ensure the ship's engines ran as smoothly as possible. Despite being one of TNG's main characters, Geordi had less development than many of his fellow crew members, and very little was revealed about his childhood. Over the course of its 7 seasons, Star Trek The Next Generation introduced family members of several of its main characters. Most notably, Counselor Deanna Troy's Marina Sirtis, mother Luoxana Troi, Majel Barrett, became a recurring character on both TNG and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Lore Brent Spiner, the evil twin brother of Lieutenant Commander Data, Brent Spiner, also made multiple appearances. Geordi's parents, on the other hand, only appeared in 1 episode of TNG, and much about his family remains unknown. As chief engineer on the USS Enterprise D, Geordi gained a reputation for being an incredibly hard worker who could find a solution to almost any engineering problem. Although Geordi had been blind since birth, he never let this slogan down. On the contrary, Geordi La Forge's VLISLR proved helpful on numerous occasions, as he could see things beyond normal human eyesight. After leaving the Enterprise, Geordi went on to have an impressive career, climbing Starfleet's ranks and eventually making it to the position of Commodore. By the time of Star Trek Picard Season 3, Geordi was serving as the head curator for the Starfleet Museum at Athen Prime. With his love of starships and their history, this felt like the perfect career choice for someone like Geordi. Not only did Geordi get married and start a family sometime after Star Trek Nemesis, but he also found time to completely rebuild and restore the USS Enterprise D. This turned out to be incredible foresight on his part, as the iconic ship proved vital in stopping the Borg/changing threat. 5. Commander Edward M. La Forge, Geordi's father. Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7, Episode 3, Interface. Geordi's father, Commander Edward M. La Forge, Ben Vereen, only appeared in the Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7 episode, Interface, but he was mentioned a few other times throughout the series. Edward served in Starfleet as an exozoologist, and he once spent time studying invertebrates in the Modian system. In Interface, Edward contacted Geordi to let him know that his mother and her ship, the US Hera, were missing. While Edward spoke to Geordi about funeral arrangements, Geordi refused to accept that his mother was gone. When Geordi was a child, Edward and his wife, Silver La Forge, Madge Sinclair, saved their young son from a fire. When Geordi told his best friend Data about this incident, he recalled that it took a while for him to even allow his parents out of earshot. Not much is known about Edward La Forge, but he appeared to be a good father to Geordi and his sister, Ariana. 4. Captain Silver La Forge, Geordi's mother. Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7, Episode 3, Interface. Like Edward La Forge, Captain Silver La Forge made her one and only Star Trek appearance in TNG's Interface. While her husband joined the science division within Starfleet, Silver pursued her own command and spent time at multiple outposts on the Romulan Neutral Zone. Silver took over command of the US Hera in 2369, and the ship went missing less than a year later in 2370. The US Nobel and the US Excelsior both embarked on search missions to look for the Hera, but no trace of the ship or its crew could be found. When Geordi learned of his mom's disappearance, he used an experimental VLISLR interface to search for her, despite risks to his own health. Although Captain Picard ordered Geordi to stop using the interface, the chief engineer continued his search and eventually encountered a subspace being who took on the appearance of his mother. Geordi initially believed this entity to truly be Silver, but later realized the impossibility of this and accepted his mother's death. 3. LT Sydney La Forge, Geordi's eldest daughter. Star Trek Picard Season 3. Star Trek The Next Generation's cast reunited in Star Trek Picard Season 3, offering a glimpse into the characters' lives since their time aboard the US Enterprise D. Picard Season 3 introduced Ensign Sydney La Forge, Ashley Sharp Chestnut, the helmsman on the US Titan under the command of Captain Liam Shaw, Todd Stashwick. Sydney had pursued a career as a pilot rather than a career in engineering like her father, causing friction between Sydney and Geordi. After Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, and Captain Will Riker, Jonathan Frakes commandeered the Titan. Sydney helped pilot the ship out of a gravity well it had become trapped in. 2. Ensign Alandra La Forge, Geordi's youngest daughter. Star Trek Picard Season 3. Geordi's younger daughter, Alandra Burton, more directly followed in her father's footsteps, pursuing a career in engineering. She visited the Titan along with her father when Picard sought assistance from his former chief engineer. When Geordi initially refused, Alandra and Sydney worked together to convince him to help. The two sisters stole a cloaking device from a Klingon ship at the Fleet Museum so that the Titan could hide from Starfleet. Alandra played a smaller role in Star Trek Picard Season 3 than Sydney, but the two had a fun sister dynamic. Alandra noticed her sister's flirtatious relationship with Jack Crusher and gave her a hard time about it. Like Sydney and every other Starfleet officer under the age of 25, Alandra was assimilated by the Borg at Frontier Day before Admiral Picard and Enterprise D crew destroyed the Borg Queen, Alice Krige, once and for all. One other members of Geordi La Forge's family. Geordi La Forge had one sister and later married an unknown woman. Ariana La Forge, Geordi's sister. Geordi's only sibling, Ariana, is only mentioned in dialogue on Star Trek The Next Generation. According to Geordi, Ariana once had a pet cat that she trained to jump into her arms by hiding tuna in her shirt. In TNG's Interface, Edward La Forge informs Geordi that he has already spoken to Ariana about having a private funeral ceremony for Silver, Geordi La Forge's wife. While Star Trek Picard introduces Geordi's daughters, the show never reveals the identity of their mother. In the alternate future seen in TNG's series finale, All Good Things, Geordi had married a woman named Leah, presumably meant to be Dr. Lee Brahms, Susan Gibney. However, considering the awkward and somewhat problematic nature of Geordi and Lee's initial romance, Picard is likely referring to an entirely new character. According to Picard Season 3 showrunner Terry Matalas, a future Star Trek project could reveal the identity of Geordi's wife. Whether or not the long-rumored Star Trek legacy ever becomes a reality or not, hopefully Star Trek will continue the story of Geordi La Forge and his family that began all the way back in Star Trek The Next Generation.